Now, Sbu, the president has been accused of being slow in implementing changes to his cabinet, but it looks like tonight we are in then for possibly a surprise when it comes to those who might be making an entrance.
Well, Bongi, obviously tonight, 26 months later, after the president first appointed his cabinet, we will hear of changes that he has made to his cabinet. Some might say it's a little too late, given what we've seen in terms of the unrest of the past few weeks, and some of his senior ministers actually speaking against each other and contradicting each other, giving an impression of a government that is not in sync. But I think more than anything, Bongi, the president has been accused of being slow to act, particularly against errant ministers. And now at 2030, we will hear what changes he's making to his cabinet. I mean, there has been a lot of speculation, and I think the most obvious one being the issue of the Minister of Health. As we understand, he has sent his letter to the president resigning, but obviously there are other vacancies in his cabinet. But Bongi, there is a man who is based at Luthuli House who heads the ANC's presidency, the presidency of the ANC. That's one Sibongile Besani, who joins me now to talk about the leadership of President Ramaphosa. Today, Mr. Besani, good evening. Today, it's so interesting that the cabinet reshuffle is happening on the very day that you penned that piece in the Business Day, where I would say you were very, for lack of a better word, generous to the president and his leadership style. Let's talk a bit about, let's start with the pending reshuffle. 26 months later, the president is finally making changes. Do you think that's good enough to convince South Africans that the president has got a grip on his cabinet?
Thanks, Bo, and thanks for having me. As I indicated in the article that I wrote, that President Cyril Ramaphosa is a person who believes in collective leadership. He believes in working with the NEC collective, the cabinet collective. He believes in that principle of the African National Congress. And indicated that he also believes in searching for the truth on the facts, use facts to search for the truth. And he believes in process. Now, the point here is that one of the things that features strongly in the presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa, and of course working together with the collective, is that he takes the stability of the country, the stability of government, and of course the stability of the ANC quite seriously. Now, I know that it has become sort of a norm for changes to happen now and again, but I think the approach, what we need to emphasize is that President considers everything before him on any decision, and he consults quite in depth. And solutions that needs to be provided have to be solutions that go a long way to resolve, to be responsive to challenges that the country faces. So I will not be able to speak to the issue of reshuffling in particular because I'm not in government.
No, obviously, I take that point, but I'm sure there are obvious cases. For instance, there are vacancies in a cabinet owing to the passing of, for instance, the minister in the presidency, and we know there's a minister of health who has sent his letter this afternoon. Perhaps you can talk about what kind of a cabinet we require and the kind of a caliber of people we require, or the president requires, as we go forward.
In the main, it's not really what the president requires. Remember, as I said, he believes in getting counsel from his collective, the collective that works it, whether be at the officials level, be at the NWC, be at National Executive Committee. He believes in it. And therefore, he's a man who believes in advocating policies of the party, as I indicated in my input. And part of what the ANC has been speaking about when it comes to those who should be at leadership level is that we need ethical leadership. We cannot compromise on that. We know for a fact that the ANC has been receiving many challenges, has been battered, image of the has been battered when it comes to ethical leadership. And in the context of unity and renewal, the collective under the stewardship of President Ramaphosa has been focusing on that renewal to ensure that we reclaim the prestige that seemed to be declining.
And I'm sorry to break you there, Mr. Besani. That's exactly the point where I want to come in, because you say that the president listens to collective leadership, and that is put the country ahead of the party's interests. But we know that the president has been the one who has actually said that part of his role is to unify the ANC, and that he understands the unification of the ANC to be of paramount importance. And secondly, given the fact that you are saying yourself that ethical leadership has been lacking in the ANC, one would also argue that part of the problems we're having in his current cabinet, particularly in the security cluster, is that the president prioritized the unity of the ANC above the interests of the country. What would you say to that?
No, it is not true that the president prioritizes the unity of the party over that of the country. What the ANC seeks to do is that we move from the premise that once there is stability in the ANC, then there is strong prospects to unite the country, to create even stability as leader of society. Therefore, when decisions are taken to stabilize the ANC, they are not taken in, they are taken actually to ensure that the ANC leads this society properly, leads this society in such a manner that it serves it. So we shouldn't see stability of the ANC in isolation with what the ANC seeks to achieve. I think this notion that the party and the ANC and the government cannot be sort of linked is incorrect. The point here is President Ramaphosa has made sure that there's no conflation of the state and that party arrogance actually is neutralized. But in terms of our political system, we also have to take note of the fact that we have a party system. Anybody who is in government today is there on the ticket of the party, and so is President Ramaphosa. So when you have stable organization, political parties, that is likely to have a very positive spin-off for our democracy and for the society in general. So it's not about prioritizing the party over the people. It is about the party playing a meaningful role in transforming society, in serving the people.
Now you are also, I know you head the presidency in the ANC, but also you are a member, you are a leader yourself, being a member of the NEC, of the ANC. It's been 26 months since the last cabinet was appointed, and we have seen some of the public blunders by some of the members of the cabinet. Surely you can agree with me that some of those appointments were not good for the party, or the country rather.
No, look, let me make an example of one of our best coaches in the country, Pitso Mosimane, so that you understand where we come from. At the beginning, when he started coaching Sundowns, there was a stage where the fans were actually angry with him because things didn't look that good. But now we know on hindsight that he became one of the best coaches for Sundowns and is now the best coach in the continent. Now, sometimes there are mistakes that get committed, but they do not necessarily require that there should be changes. And it is in that context that the president takes time to consult, takes time to reflect on some of the issues which are not in the public domain. So I think the fact that reshuffling has not taken place in the last 26 months, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of stabilizing. It's a sign of ensuring that there's need for...
Let me come in there, Mr. Besani, on the very last point you're making.
The lack of reshuffling cannot mean there is a weakness. Remember, let me just finish one last aspect. Remember, at some stage we got into this practice of reshuffling to a point of putting the economy of the country at risk. And it would not be, it is what President Ramaphosa considers quite ideal, not to just reshuffle. It is important to reshuffle in a manner that advances the interest of the people. So reshuffling by its nature does not mean it's going to be to do things properly for society.
But I'm sure you will agree with me that politics is equally about perception, how the public perceives what the president seems to be doing. And I would argue, and I'm sure South Africans would also argue, that the fact that the president is listening, you say that he's a listening president, is not an achievement. It's a basic expectation of leadership. The one issue here is the fact that he is accused of not acting. And just added to that, on the very issue of his reliance on processes and courts, even at the Zondo Commission when he appeared the last time, Judge Zondo actually asked the president, suggested that the ANC and also, in fact, the ANC as a governing party is using court processes to deal with errant members, where it argues that people must be charged in court before they can act against them, that there's nothing that precludes the party from acting.
Look, there is nothing wrong for people to have expectations of action, especially when people come from an era where reshuffling were quite regular and so on. But I think I've put the Pitso Misimane context. I can even go further to put another context to just
compare that.
No, let's use a time when Kaizer Chiefs was almost being out of the lock. And then a coach was appointed. He took that club from position 8 to position 2. But that coach was fired because he was losing games just on the eve of touching of winning the league. And people focused only on recent events. And when they appointed a new coach, things got worse. So it is important that our people should not suffer from recency. I agree with you. I agree with you that perception is everything, but it is always important that as leadership, we explain to our community, to our people, that we need to invest in proper planning, we need to invest in stability. In the long run, we'll be able to resolve pressing matters. So these two examples, I'm talking about soccer because it's one of the sports that is highly, that our people easily relate with.
Sure.
I'm not trying to oversimplify reality, but I think President Ramaphosa, the fact that he's able to look for facts, to look at issues quite in depth, should be appreciated. It may not be perfect, but it's one thing that is proving to take the country in good state.
Sibongile Besani, the head of the presidency in the ANC, thank you very much for your time. You can tell that Mr. Besani is probably a Kaizer Chiefs fan, judging by some of his analogies. Well, Bongi, given the fact that today we're not quoting Karl Marx or even Thomas Sankara, but rather Pitso Misimane, and using soccer analogies, I guess there's a lot to be expected from this very cabinet reshuffle. With that, Bongi, it's back at you.